Hello, my name's Amanda Careford from the Face Painting Hub and Bling Mania, and this tutorial is a beginner's tutorial for some basic bling using tulip and medical tape. There are lots of other tutorials on the website for some of the more fancy designs that you see. So you will need some basic tools to get you started. The absolute minimum would be a gem picker. If you don't have one of these, then you can use a toothpick with a little bit of sticky tack on the end, which is just as useful, and it's actually very good at picking up smaller gems because you can mould the tip into a little point to pick up the little tiny gems, which makes it easier. Small nail scissors for trimming your tape. A pair of tweezers is always useful when you're putting in small items. A pair of larger scissors for cutting your tape, and some tulip fabric paint. This is dimensional fabric paint. The three main ones that we use are glitter diamonds, glitter silver and glitter gold. There are lots and lots of colours available. They're not all glittery. I use some of the flat slick colours for the boy blings that I make as well. But you can get them literally in every colour of the rainbow. But that would be a good starting point. They come in smaller bottles when you're starting off, which are that sort of size. They're 1.2 fluid ounces. So they're best to start with, but what you need to make sure they have is the pointed nozzle. If you see them with the flip top caps, it won't have a pointed nozzle. And we need the pointed nozzle because we effectively draw with that nozzle. Medical tape. This comes in A4 sheets or A5 sheets and is available from most of the gem retailers. It's double-sided, which means that you can peel off one side to stick the gems on and then it's ready to stick on the job. I don't use sheets because, as you can imagine, it's very sticky and you get stuck to it and your gems get stuck to it as well, where you don't particularly want them. So the two things that I do is I either cut it into strips. I have a small craft guillotine that I use for that, and then you can peel back a section at a time, fold it and do it like that. Some people use the A4 sheet and peel back a piece at a time, but I find that it's then very difficult to cut out. You spend hours cutting it. So I would either go for strips, or my favourite method is to actually cut shapes. So I cut strips, I then cut a square, I then cut a triangle. I do specific shapes for different types of bling. So that would be a princess or a unicorn horn. That would be a side eye. And that would be a butterfly. Pair of pliers is always useful. Things like this that come actually attached to a wire. A little pair of pliers is the best thing for actually trimming those. Lastly, you'll need something to actually build your bling on. Now, this is for if you're going to be using the tulip fabric paint as a base. And all it is, it's a plastic page protector. It's textured. As you can see, it's got like a slightly grainy surface to it. It's not clear. If you use the clear ones, your tulip fabric paint can fuse to it. They don't fuse to this. And inside, I've got a grid that I created to help with symmetry and placement. I also put a sheet of card in it. That's just for a bit of stability, so that once you've made a sheet of bling and you pick it up, it's not going to be all floppy and then all the gems will slide everywhere. So I'm going to make two basic blings just to show you some of the key techniques. I'm going to start off by doing one using the glitter gold dimensional fabric paint. And the grid is here to help you with symmetry mainly, but also placement of the gems. Now you can use this grid either portrait or landscape. So you would use the V section, depending on what style of bling you wanted to create. This creates quite a sharp angle to your princess style bling. And this obviously gives you a wider angle. So you can choose which way to do it. I also produce all of these downloadable templates to make the tulip creatures easy to make because you've got a guide to follow. So starting with our princess bling, I'm going to turn this landscape and use this shape here. And I always start with the same basic shape. I use the bigger tube, so I use 2 hands to squeeze it out, just because it's easier. And I always start with a blob in the middle, and then I bring out 2 arms in line with the template. So that's the basic shape that I start with. Now I know that I'm going to be using a 7x15 horse eye on the 2 arms, which is one of these. And using your gem picker, you just push that down, and you want it to ooze around the edges, as you can see, because that will grip the gem. If you don't put enough tulip down, when you go to lift it up, the gems can ping out. I'm going to put a flower in the centre. The other thing that I have on the website is a section on search terms for gems, because there are so many different things you can put in to find what you're looking for when you've got all the different metal pieces and the different sizes of gems. So some of the basic terminology you'll need. So this flower might be referred to as a cabochon. These shapes are horse eyes. And this shape is a teardrop. So I've got my basic princess shape. Now, if you want to, you can leave it there. But I'm going to add a few extra little bits. So once you're comfortable with how you squeeze out the tulip, you can start adding in little drips, or you can add in loops. So I'll do both just to show you. And again, you can use the grid to help make sure it's reasonably symmetrical. I'm going to add, you just have to make sure when you're adding bits like this that the tulip is touching the previous place. And then I'll put a little drip coming down here, which is just a line with a little dot at the end. And then I'll put some gems on those. These little nail art gems are really good. There's lots of these available online. And this is where your gem picker with the sticky tack, blue tack, can come into its own when you're picking up the really tiny gems. And you can keep adding to it if you want to. I'm going to put another couple of small ones up here. And just like with face painting, focal points are crucial. So you've got a centre bit there, and then all of these gems are pointing in. So these are some examples of other ones that I've made. As you can see, the glitter gold dries to this beautiful glittery finish. So moving on to the medical tape, and I'm going to use one of my pre-cut sections. Peel off the paper backing, and then your only problem now is that you're stuck to it. And the easiest way to get unstuck is by sticking a gem on. I'm going to actually build a unicorn horn with this one. Now obviously you've got something to hold it by and manoeuvre it with, so you're no longer stuck to it. And then I just build using different gems. That one's a teardrop. These are leaf sequins. And again, I'm always working to a focal point in the centre. Now, one of the things you will find with the unicorn horns is that the silk clay, which is an air dry clay, so it's very lightweight, but it actually doesn't stick very well to the tape. And as soon as it's moved off once, it leaves almost like a dusty film, and it then won't stay stuck. So you still need to use a little bit of Tulip on these as well. I use one called Glitter Diamond, but you can use any colour you like. This dries to an almost clear glittery finish. And I make sure that I'm catching the bottom of all of these gems, because when you turn over and look at the other side, they're all hanging off the edge a little bit, which is absolutely fine. But that just makes sure there's no chance of them pinging off. And then I'm just going to get a flower cabochon, pop it in the middle. I often like to finish off my unicorn horns with a little sequin, which is a unicorn. And there you have a simple unicorn